Wow, I get a clap. Thank you. So I'm going to go pretty fast. This is going to be online, I think, in about a week or so. There's a lot of slides here that I'm not even going to comment on. I just want them there online in about a week's time so we have a record. So I'm going to go pretty fast, and the story has changed quite substantially from what you just said. In May of this year, my poor company, working in Ecuador for 9 years, was assessed a tax of $24 million US, payable per year by the Ecuadorian government. We have no income. This was a tax that was assessed all through the industry. There are 7 legal challenges through the Constitutional Court going on in Ecuador right now. We have decided to suspend all of our activity in Ecuador for the time being until this thing gets resolved, if it does. But we're very fortunate because 2 years ago, a couple of opportunities came our way here in Europe, and we've been working on these things diligently, but very quietly, kind of in the back room. And today, one of the projects will be the very first time that I get to talk about it at one of these conferences, and we're very, very excited about it. So I will be making forward-looking statements. So we are going to focus on low capex, high return scenarios for critical minerals and gold here in Europe and abroad. And why are we doing that? Because the gold price is $4,000 an ounce. And okay, no disrespect to a lot of the people who have been here presenting, but there are a lot of projects here that are lower than 1 gram per ton. They represent a very, very big tonnage deposits that's going to take a long time to get permitted because they're going to be open pits. And I am 63 years of age, and I don't want to wait until I'm 85 to see a mine operating. Because it typically takes now in the world about 20 years after discovery to get something built. And you can see all kinds of stuff on the screen here, really, really nice stuff talking about resources and reserves and potential and the future and all the rest of it. But the reality is that most of these projects that you see here at the conference are not going to get on the ground in your lifetime, right? So keep this very, very much in mind. So I'm going to show you something here. This is rock, okay. Where's the screen? There it is, yeah. This is rock that contains 46% gold. It's got about a half a kilo of gold in it. This represents $6,170,000 per ton. 6 million, right? Now, I'm not going to say that this is representative of what we've got on a property. Not, of course not. But we have lucked across something that is very, very high grade. We believe in France. We have to do a lot of work here. But this is many, many orders of magnitude from what you're going to see elsewhere at this conference. And potentially because, and I think it's probably small, but low grade, or high grade rather, potentially small signature on the ground, easily permitted, and this kind of material, you do not need to have a mill or a tailings pond to operate. You can mine this stuff, you can extract it out of the ground, you can take it to a smelter and sell it as flux because it's very, very silica rich, and that company, it could be Outokumpu, it could be Boliden in Sweden, they throw it in the copper smelter, and they would make gold from it. So I'm going to blast through a number of these things. The property, we have applied for 3 properties in Brittany in northern France. How I found out about this thing, this is a piece of gold. This is a 3.5 kilo specimen that had 1 kilo of gold in it. It was purchased by the Banque de France for 100,000 euros and given to the Natural History Museum in Paris. And it resided there for about 1.5 years. I heard about it. I wanted to know exactly where it came from. I found out and went ahead and pegged it. Went ahead and put a concession application on it. And this thing is pending. If it had not been for the fact that the French government fell twice, this would already be signed into law and we'd have it today. You can see a whole bunch of pieces of gold at the bottom of the slide here. These are all pieces of gold that have been recovered from the same site. This is something that is extreme high grade, extreme high grade. Now there's another mine like this in the world in Japan called Hishikari. It's averaging between 20 and 40 grams per ton. It's owned by Sumitomo. They sort the ore by hand, and anything with quartz in it goes into the smelter, and they recover it that way. Very, very small footprints. You wouldn't even know that it was there. No tailings pile, pond, there's no waste pile, nothing like that. Fantastic. Unfortunately, what happened to that piece of gold in the museum? It's gone. It was stolen about 2 months ago. There was a raid on the Natural History Museum, just like the Louvre. Different people, though, apparently so, and it is gone. So, we have 3 concession applications. They're pending. We notified that they will be granted imminently. Nickel cobalt opportunities. This is something, again, that kind of fell out of the sky. It was too good to pass up. It's a fantastic opportunity, and it's got to do with a rare mineral called awarenite, which is a natural nickel iron alloy, and it occurs in 2 places here in Europe in abundance. And we're working on both of them. Now, the alloy contains between 75 and 77% nickel in it, which is unlike any other nickel mineral out there. It's extremely high grade, and it is high density, and it is magnetic, so it's easy to recover it. And I'm going to blast through, as I said, blast through a number of these things here. Nickel, cobalt, they're considered to be critical metals here in Europe, and critical meaning essential and necessary now. And there's a big push on in the EU to get these things in production, so the critical metals, the EU has access to these critical metals because they don't want to buy them from Russia. So this is a project in northern Corsica. We found out about this in an obscure document that was written in 1960 talking about byproduct nickel coming from an asbestos mine. That mine is now closed. You can see it way off in the distance here up on the ridge. But I was intrigued by this beach in the front here and these black lines on it. And here's another shot. This is after a couple of storms. Look at all these black lines on this beach. Isn't this odd? Very strange. I saw this on a Google Earth image, a satellite image, and I said, well, we got to go investigate this. I sent a colleague down there. He was there the next day, and he sent me back this photo. And this is what we call a beach placer. It is a concentration of heavy minerals. So this is awarenite, the nickel mineral, and magnetite, and this strip of land here is running 6% nickel. And that is higher than any hard rock nickel mine. It's higher than any nickel mine in the whole world. It's quite incredible. Now, he collected a pail of this sand material. I took it at my house. I washed it in a gold pan because it's high density. And all these little silvery minerals you see here, that's the awarenite. The concentrate of this, when it was dried and sent to the lab, came back 50% nickel. And they said, this is the highest grade material we have ever seen from natural substance. And look at this. This is little film here. There's a magnet in that bottle. This is how easy it is to recover this stuff. No chemicals, no pulverizing, no grinding, no sophisticated equipment, just a magnet. And you can pick it up off this beach. The whole beach is running about 2% nickel. The reason why it's here is because you can see the old mill for the asbestos plant there. They threw all the waste into the Mediterranean. You'd never be allowed to do that today. But look at this mess that they made. They threw it into the Mediterranean, and it contained nickel. And what happened over time is that it traveled with the wind and the tides and the currents 6 kilometers down the coast. On the journey, it was pulverized, by all the winter storms, and so now it's rounded pebbles and sand. And it's that sand fraction that we're interested in, stuff that is smaller than 1 millimeter. Here's a sample of a rock, a pebble. Now, maybe you can see it from the front, but all these little white nubbins in this is the mineral called awaroite. So essentially what happened, it traveled down the coast, it filled in these two bays, and this is now a synthetic beach. And what you see here is an old fishing village, which is now well inland. Very, very simple to recover this stuff. You just use a suction dredge. You would screen it in the screening plant and then do the magnetic extraction. So I'm going to blast through these, or I'm going to run out of some time because I want to show you the main event here. And this is something which has just happened. We've been working on this project quietly for 2 years, but we've just signed an MOU on it with the surface rights owner. Surface rights owner is a consortium of 5 different townships. This is an old asbestos mine, again. Now, this operated from 1916 to 1990. Again, we found this through the literature in an old report from 1966. There is a hill of tailings there that is 60 million cubic meters of crushed material. And here it is. And you can see a bunch of houses in front of it. This is what it looked like in 1994. The government has spent 30 million euro on it, covering it in foliage so the asbestos doesn't blow off into the air and become a hazard for people. Now, what this represents, though, because it has been crushed, it's already gone through a mill, and we don't need to do any drilling or blasting or excavation or anything. We load it onto a conveyor, send it into a mill, grind it, extract the minerals using magnetism. Because, again, it's the same. Look, the rock is almost identical to the Corsica. It's the same type of rock. It has the mineral awaroite in it. The silver pinpoints are awaroite. So this is a fantastic opportunity. What's it going to cost to build this thing? I don't know. Tomorrow, I'm going to site. We have SRK, one of the world's largest consulting companies, working with us on this. And they're going to do a preliminary economic assessment for me. This will be their first time that they've been to the site. So they're going to kind of get their arms wrapped around it and see what has to be done. Now, we're only looking at the one tailings pile, which is that one in the right up there, you see in brown. But there's a second one below the open pits, which is potentially just as large. Now, I had it in the last press release. I'm not going to mention it here because if the regulators hear me say it, they're going to come down on me hard. But you can do the math on this and decide how much nickel is in it. And it is a very, very big number. This is potentially something, you know, there's another competitor company of ours that is looking at a similar sort of thing for awaroite in northern British Columbia. They need $26 billion to build the mine. This has got rail going into the open pits. It has electricity. It has water. It has roads. It's 30 kilometers from a major city. Stellantis, who own Fiat, are in Turin, and they're a potential buyer of nickel, of the product. It doesn't get any better than that. So this is a very, very simple and easy. I love gold. I'm focused on gold, but I want to make money for the shareholders. And one thing that's very different with this company, I'm kind of biased myself because I own 44% of the company. I do not take a salary, and so I am completely aligned with the shareholders. If the shareholders don't make money, I don't make money. I intend to make money, and it's unfortunate what happened in Ecuador. I can't help that. I don't run the politics. But look at this. We've got 3 potential home runs here. I'm very, very excited about it. There'll be a lot of news coming your way. So as I said, I'm going to site tomorrow at Balangero, and then after that I'm going to Corsica, and I'm going to do some work there with some of the communities. And things are very, very much looking up. Thank you very much.